Imagine sipping a glass of water on a hot day. Clear, refreshing, harmless. Now imagine that water quietly carrying a man-made chemical, odorless, tasteless, invisible to the eye. A chemical that's already in your blood and mine, and in the blood of nearly every creature on Earth. One that's been building up since before most of us were born. This is not a dystopian sci-fi story. This is real. And it started not with malice, but with good intentions. Our story begins in 1938. Roy J. Plunkett, a 27-year-old chemist working for DuPont, was trying to find a better refrigerant. One day he stored a gas called tetrafluoroethylene TFE in a pressurized cylinder overnight. The next morning, nothing came out when he opened the valve, but the tank still weighed the same. Curious, he cut it open. Inside, he found a slippery white powder. This powder was polytetrafluoroethylene, or PTFE, the chemical that would become known as Teflon. Plunkett tested it. Nothing could corrode it. Acid didn't touch it. Heat didn't melt it. Water couldn't penetrate it. It was chemically inert and nearly indestructible. Useful for industry, exciting for science, and potentially dangerous, though no one knew it yet. DuPont patented it and began developing industrial uses. Over the years, Teflon found its way into cookware clothing, wires, cables, airplanes, and even military hardware. A non-stick, frictionless miracle. But the miracle came with a hidden cost. Why was Teflon so extraordinary? The answer lies in the carbon-fluorine bond. Fluorine is one of the most reactive elements in nature. When paired with carbon, it creates one of the strongest bonds in chemistry, resistant to heat water, acids, and biological decay. And that's the problem. These carbon-fluorine bonds are so strong that once created, they don't go away. They resist breakdown in the environment and in our bodies. This class of chemicals, now known as PFAS and polyfluoroalkyl substances, are often called forever chemicals because of their persistence. To manufacture PTFE, DuPont needed help. In 1951, they began buying a surfactant from 3M called PFOA, also known as C8. It helped disperse Teflon particles in water, allowing it to be sprayed or coated onto surfaces. But C8 had the same strong carbon-fluorine bonds, and something even worse, it was water-soluble, which meant it could travel. By the 1960s, DuPont was already documenting concerning results from lab tests. Rats exposed to PFOA developed tumors. The chemical accumulated in blood and organs. DuPont's own internal memos called for caution, but nothing changed. Instead, the company expanded use. Teflon-coated pans became a kitchen staple. Carpet treatments, stain-resistant clothing, food packaging all embraced the magic of PFAS. Ads hailed their safety, their cleanliness. Even astronauts wore PFAS-lined suits. Meanwhile, the chemicals were seeping into rivers, leaching from landfills, and drifting through the air. Workers at DuPont's Washington Works plant in Parkersburg, West Virginia, started noticing health issues. Miscarriages, birth defects, mysterious illnesses. One farmer, Wilbur Tennant, watched nearly 200 of his cows die after they drank from a creek downstream of a DuPont landfill. Their teeth turned black, their hair fell out, their organs rotted. Tennant filmed everything and begged for help. No one listened until he found a lawyer named Robert Bilott. Bilott, a corporate defense attorney, initially wanted nothing to do with the case. But Tennant was persistent. Eventually, Bilott filed a lawsuit and demanded internal records. DuPont sent over 60,000 documents. Most companies might have expected the lawyer to be overwhelmed. But Bilott wasn't most lawyers. He read every page, and what he found was damning. DuPont had known since the 1970s that PFOA was toxic. They had conducted secret studies on rats, monkeys, and workers. The company had calculated safe limits, then exceeded them sometimes by thousands of times. Worse, they never told the EPA, never warned the public. Instead, they quietly dumped the waste into unlined pits, creeks, in the air, and they kept making billions. By the early 2000s, Bilot had compiled enough evidence to initiate a class action lawsuit. Nearly 70,000 people in the Parkersburg area were exposed to C8 in their drinking water. A massive health study followed. 7 years, thousands of blood samples. Scientists confirmed a probable link between C8 and 6 serious diseases: testicular cancer, kidney cancer, thyroid disease, ulcerative colitis, high cholesterol, and pregnancy-induced hypertension. DuPont eventually settled for over $600 million, but never admitted wrongdoing. Faced with legal pressure, DuPont phased out C8. But rather than eliminating PFAS entirely, they introduced a new compound, GenX. GenX was supposed to be safer, but early studies showed similar toxicity. Once again, it polluted rivers and bloodstreams. Once again, it resisted breakdown. Once again, no one knew about it until it was too late. In 2015, DuPont spun off its Teflon division into a new company, Chemours. This move separated DuPont legally from the future consequences of PFAS contamination. It was a corporate sleight of hand, but the chemicals remained. Today, PFAS have been found in Arctic ice, Antarctic penguins, deep-sea fish, rainwater, and human breast milk. Over 98% of Americans have detectable levels of PFAS in their blood. Firefighters are particularly vulnerable due to PFAS-laced foam and protective gear. A 2022 study found that regular blood donations reduce PFAS levels by nearly 30% in firefighters. But for most people, there is no easy detox. Even rainwater in some parts of the world now contains PFAS concentrations above what is considered safe by U.S. health guidelines. This is no longer a local issue, it's global contamination. Removing PFAS from water requires advanced filtration, typically reverse osmosis or activated carbon. These are expensive and energy-intensive. Destroying PFAS is even harder. Incineration doesn't always work. Chemical breakdown methods are still being developed. But there's hope. Some countries are moving to ban PFAS in non-essential items like cosmetics, food packaging, and textiles. Scientists are working on safer alternatives, and consumers are pushing back, demanding transparency and accountability. Yet change is slow, industry influence is strong, and regulation often lags behind science. The PFAS story is a cautionary tale about unintended consequences, corporate secrecy, and the limits of regulatory oversight. It's also a story of resilience of whistleblowers, lawyers, scientists, and everyday people who refuse to stay silent. We've been here before with lead, asbestos, tobacco, and each time we eventually phased out the danger. With PFAS, we have the chance to act sooner, to hold polluters accountable, to protect future generations from a legacy they didn't choose, because the true cost of progress shouldn't be our health.